Yeah, just give me a second. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, so excited to be here again. I think what I really want to share today is what we've learned as a company through the pandemic. And in my over 2 decades of experience, I think one of the most important things that even brought me to the people function from technology is the aspect around culture. And it's when actually the world goes through something like this, you realize the importance of culture in an organization, in a family, and so forth, right? So what I'm going to share with you, hopefully over the next 25-30 minutes, and have enough time for Q&A at the end of it, is to be able to share our learnings as a company, my learnings as a leader within the context of Flipkart and what we've done. So I'd like to sort of just give a little bit of a macro context. I think many of you all probably know this, but COVID-19 has been something that has changed the world forever, right? And what you see on this axis per se is on the y-axis, it's about what kind of growth certain industries have experienced, both positive and negative. On the x-axis, whether that shift is a temporary one or a baseline shift itself, a permanent one. And on the top right hand corner, you'll see industries around gaming, video, ed tech, obviously the space we are in, e-commerce, significantly changing. But there have been also industries that are on the other end of the spectrum which have been impacted from a permanent standpoint, right? You could argue commercial real estate, travel and transportation. These are actually significantly impacted and possibly from a permanence standpoint. There are industries like hospitality that have also been hit, but given with the optimistic outlook, hopefully over the next year or so, they will bounce back, right? So this is the kind of landscape that we are in from an overall industry standpoint. Moving on, some of the most influential leaders across the world, what have they spoken about? And they've spoken about different dimensions, so to speak. Walmart obviously has talked about a lot about importance of partnerships. How do you actually partner with both industry and government? That's become even more important at this point in time. Unilever talks a lot about how do you actually drive a lot more value for your consumers in a time like this. Nike talks about a lot more aspects around agility, and that's something I'll touch upon later on in my conversation as well. The tech giants like Microsoft, they talk a lot about embracing the kind of structural change that we've seen, and that's spoken about by Alibaba as well in terms of the transformation to digital being something which every industry, not even in tech is anyway assumed, but even all the industries that surround us, technology has become a big part of their transformation. And then Airbnb talks about, and this is probably very typical of most industries out there and companies, which is how do you actually become a lot more focused, a lot more razor sharp in your view of what's important to a company, what's your core principle, the reason you exist versus what's actually optional. That's become a lot more paramount right now. So these are some of the things that CEOs across various industries are talking about. So what does this mean for us and how do we think about it from a Flipkart standpoint? Sorry, there's somebody not on mute. If they could go on mute, please. Thank you. Um, so at Flipkart, like the way we think about it, there are really three pillars for us. And that's really how we think about it. The first and foremost is yeah. Thank you so much. Um, if everyone can go on mute as we continue. So the first pillar is foremost for us is a culture of entrepreneurship. I think we have to realize that the new world that actually we are in will present problems that we've not faced before. And at the core of it, the entrepreneurial minds are the ones which will be best equipped to solve for these problems. because along with entrepreneurialism, what comes through is audacity. What comes through is solving for what you've not faced before. What comes through is a culture of resilience. And these are things that are very important and core to possibly every company, every organization out there. The second most important pillar is the aspect around inclusion. Many customers, be it any industry that you talk about, will experience digital for the first time, and winning these customers will require the most amount of diversity in your thought process and inclusivity in how you execute. Because just taking a look at the next 200 millions for 200 million customers in India, for instance, they are going to come from spaces that we have not encountered as a company before. So that's going to become very important for us. The third pillar that we focus on quite a bit is that as new opportunities open, we need to be able to sustain the journey that we have as a company, as an organization. And sustainability means investing in an ecosystem, investing in making sure that we have a scalable leadership bench that faces the challenges of the future. So those are the things that we focus on as a company. And I'll talk about each of these aspects as I move along. So first and foremost, I'll talk about the culture of innovation. I think the entrepreneurship that I talked about. We have actually thought about it, and we've said we'll break it down into certain key philosophies, what we call our people centric philosophy. And we've kind of been obviously inspired by some of the work out there in terms of what motivates people, what motivates human beings at the core. And some of you all might have actually come across this work by Dan Pink, which is talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. We've actually built on that. So the first and foremost piece that we actually have invested in is mastery. We think that if you drive mastery through an environment of experimentation and learning, uh, people will thrive. How do you actually ensure that you provide autonomy while they do all of this? The ability for them to lead from the front, to be able to solve the problems that they experience, and having the autonomous nature of being able to go after it by themselves. How does this all fit in terms of a purpose? Purpose is very key. Our purpose as a company is to be able to disrupt digital commerce in the country. And how do you actually ensure that every one of the employees in Flipkart experience that purpose? Even a wishmaster on the ground should experience that purpose. Maybe that purpose means something slightly different for them in from a nuanced perspective. But I think it's our job as leaders to be able to actually get that purpose through to every last employee on the ground. And personalization is to ensure that how do our policies cater to every employee. This is very important because not every employee is the same as the other. When you actually craft policies, how do you ensure that it actually speaks to every person's need? At the core of it, like we build products for consumers, can we think about crafting employee policies in the same way from a personalization standpoint? When you design a rewards policy, does it mean the same thing for a wishmaster versus somebody working in the corporate office? When you design a remote working policy, does it mean the same thing? I think when you apply a thought process, this can be very powerful. It can be one of the biggest engagement drivers for an employee on the ground. And finally, how do we actually enable all of this? You can have the best of environments, driving mastery, autonomy, purpose, but you also have to be able to provide employees with the right resources, the right guidance, and the license to take risks. Entrepreneurship doesn't come through just because of the fact that you have an environment. You almost have to have a license to fail. And this is what actually has brought us the kind of industry first innovations that we've actually driven through Flipkart, be it our cash on delivery going back in time, uh, things around affordability, how we drive that for consumers, Flipkart Quick. A lot of this has come through because of the kind of guiding philosophy through our people centricity. And this is something that has also resulted in business outcomes for us. I mean, we are winning digital commerce in India, and just the figures down below in terms of visits, units, GMV, they are growing year on year at a very very large base for us. And I believe this is the core of what we are in terms of a people philosophy. Moving on, I'll talk through some of the stories here. I don't want to spend too much time reading through everything, but as I mentioned on the previous slide, I think a big part of when crisis hits you, your employee centricity really tests you. And I'll take you back through a story. I think we were in the height of the pandemic, starting when it hit us in April, May of 2020. And we as leadership at Flipkart, we were really thinking through what does it mean for us from a business outlook, right? It's very hard to predict at that point in time. We had made several offers in campus, we had internships come through. We said, as a management team, as a leadership team, we said, no matter what, business outlook otherwise or not, we will actually honor everything that we honored, we committed. And we went ahead and announced this in one of our first Flipster Connects that we call. I think this is a big lesson for all of us, which is in times of crisis, when you step up and you honor your commitments and you're transparent about it with your employees show up very differently. They actually rise and deliver things that you've never even anticipated, even during a BAU time. And that's what we saw across the board, both in 2020 and 2021. The other piece that we extensively focused on is wellness. I think this is spoken about quite a bit, obviously, over the last 1.5 years. But when we thought about wellness, we thought about wellness from a perspective of holistic wellness. It's not just about physical wellness, it's about mental wellness. It's about how do you take the fear and the anxiety away from employees. And just recently this year, we launched a industry wide, I think, unlimited health insurance plan. It came from the principle of thinking big, thinking audacious, and making sure that we take away the anxiety from our employees. And we continue to support our employees through vaccinations. And a big one here, I would like to specifically call out, it's very easy for us to think about only our employees. But at the end of the day, there is an ecosystem at large that supports us. And that's when we extended our vaccination cover to all our FTCs as well, all our contract workforce. And when we think about policies at Flipkart, we actually think about the entire ambit of the ecosystem. And this is something that, as a learning, I would want to pass on to each one of you. At some point in time, you'll work in companies, lead companies, start companies. I think this becomes very important about how do you expand your area of influence? How do you expand your cover to cover a much greater part of the ecosystem? I think that becomes a winning a strategy as well, even from a business standpoint. The other thing that we focused heavily is on learning. I think a lot of the learning that we did continue unabated, and we transferred all of that learning even remotely, right? The final aspect I would want to talk about is authenticity. I think this is very important. Um, we over communicate at Flipkart, and even if we have to convey bad news, we convey bad news. Uh, and we convey bad news early. I think this becomes almost a cornerstone. Employees have come to expect that from us. And companies that do this effectively and on a regular basis in a very predictable manner, I think the degree of buy-in, engagement with your employees, you'll see that skyrocket through the roof. So that's the other learning that that I wanted to share with you all. We are also kind of the third aspect which I talked about, which is sustainability, is we are investing in the future as well. Many of you all know this. We have, companies that have been formed by ex Flipsters. Is the Flipkart mafia, right? And I don't need to talk through all of these numbers, but there are literally hundreds of companies right now out there which are founded by Flipsters, and the kind of funding that they've raised and the kind of impact they started to have on the ecosystem themselves. uh, we have become a factory of sorts of entrepreneurs, and we want to continue to scale that journey to the next level. So we're going to scale our leadership development. We are setting up an academy within Flipkart. We believe that this will not only contribute to our success but the larger ecosystem success as well. We want to make sure that every Flipster at the core, as I talked about our guiding people principles, the mastery principle, the autonomy principle, we want every Flipster to be the best version of themselves, discover what they're good at, and be able to maximize that. So therefore, we are going to customize career paths at scale, and we're going to invest in technology in a very big way, which is actually take the problem of a marketplace. You have on one side the supply side, which is basically your talent, the demand side, which are roles, projects, experiences. How do you actually almost scale this out and do the matchmaking through technology? This is a problem that gets solved in the consumer space, but can we actually solve for it within a company at the people space as well? So that's the other angle that we are taking in terms of scaling our journey to the next level. Our focus, as I said, from a sustainability standpoint, is not just in Flipkart, but the overall entire ecosystem as well. We have now a one of a kind venture fund, corporate venture fund. We are actually going to leverage it for focusing on startups, and not just from an investment standpoint, but actually be able to mentor these startups, provide our experiential learnings, our experiential learnings in people, in technology, in finance. How do we actually equip these startups to succeed? As many of you might know, we actually employ over 2 lakh employees across our supply chain. It's almost like a mini India, right? So uh, this is something that we want to continue to invest in. We believe as an employer, we have a huge responsibility as well. I think some of the news that you might have heard about quite recently, how do we actually employ people with disabilities in a hub? How do we run women only hubs? These are things that will have a fundamental impact on the ecosystem that surrounds us. And we believe as an employer, we have a huge responsibility to do so. We are also empowering sellers around us. I think those are the core of our marketplace. And therefore, there are dedicated programs like Samarth, which focus on sellers across tier two cities. And we are scaling this across India as we focus on the next 200 million Indians. And finally, I think all of this connects to our promises as an employer. And we just recently launched our employee value proposition, which kind of spells and connects to the uh, MAPPE, which I spoke about, leave a mark, which talks about as a flipster, you have the ability to actually leave a mark across levels, be it at an entry level from campus, be it a vice president in the company. We are solving problems that are possibly unprecedented, and we empower people towards one goal, which is how can you bring to bear your skills in the most meaningful manner. Therefore, there's an opportunity to leave a mark. Experiment, learn, and go, which is our second pillar, is really around the fact that we are a company that wants to continue to experiment, be it even at our scale. And this culture of experimentation essentially means you will learn in the process, and how will you grow in the process. So that's actually very key for us, and we work with the best. I think that's the opportunity that you have. And finally, we care, right? We care for our employees truly. We care for the ecosystem that surrounds us, and how do we care for even our sellers? So that's the kind of the four pillars and the promises that we make as an employer to anyone who joins us. And all of this, I don't want to really talk through too much of this, but obviously this is being recognized externally as well. We've consistently been linked in top companies, great places to work. Even from a diversity standpoint, we've been recognized as 100 best companies for women. And even across our supply chain, I think Fair Work is one of the surveys that focuses on the supply chain side of the equation, and we've been recognized there as well recently. So these are some of the accolades that we continue to receive. But at the end of the day, I believe we've just started. I think as a company, the culture that we have actually built, and what we are embarking upon is the start of a journey, and we need to continue to maximize. So this is really where I wanted to end. I hope I shared some of our learnings as an organization, and what I think each of y'all as individuals and each of y'all as potential entrepreneurs would also benefit from. So I'll pause here. I'll stop the share. Would love Amol to take any questions. I think I've spoken for about 20 odd minutes. Happy to take Q&A on any subject. Yeah.
Sure, sir, sure. Thank you so much for the presentation, sir. I'll request people who have questions to raise their hands and we can just take it from there. Okay, Srinita, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, that's
Please
right.
go ahead with the question.
So I think one of the major things that caught my eye is that you've been recognized, Flipkart has been recognized as one of the preferable companies for women to work. So if you could, I mean, are you taking any new practices to actually ensure that, or if there are any policies that you'd like to shed light on?
Sure, Shrintha. So I think I could go on for a lot of time, but I think I'll just talk about some of the fundamental things we're doing. Maybe policies. I think many companies focus on it. So I'll just kind of the maternity policies, all of that is there. It's very differentiated. But what I'd like to talk about is possibly the investments we're making in the ecosystem. uh, there's a fair bit of recognition on our part that you really need to invest early in the ecosystem for women talent. So we have kind of a couple of programs particularly aimed at that. We have a program called Flipkart Runway, which focuses on women in technology, even in the second and third year. And what we've realized is that the more you focus on the ecosystem at the grassroots level, and you upskill talent, give them industry relevant experiences early on, make them understand what it takes to solve a problem in the industry, that becomes a lot more impactful. Whether they join us or not, that's a secondary point. But I think what's more important is to be able to invest in the ecosystem. So we have two programs, Runway and Girls Wanna Code, as the name suggests, which really focus on getting women into technology. I think that's a big, I would say, underexplored area in India, and we're focusing exclusively on that. Second is the transition that happens typically. What we've seen across organizations, and this is prevalent across the world, by the way, which is women in top leadership at CXO level positions. Why does that happen? The fact that women go through life transitions, and let's accept and understand that that is reality, right? How do you actually equip them as they come back from this transition? And we are investing heavily in that area, which is, we have a program which is like Mom on Board, which is when you take a maternity break, while you're going through that life changing event, we want to remove all the anxiety about what roles are you going to pick up when you come back. We actually engage with people right through their maternity break. HR reaches them and says, and their managers reach them, the former managers that they left behind, and say, these are the potential roles open for you, and do you want to explore and have that conversation? So it's a proactive conversation. That's one area we are investing. The second area is, when women are in mid management, what does it take for them to get to top management? How do we demystify this? So how do we actually have structured mentoring and role modeling by women leaders within the organization and industry wide? So we have something called a catalyst program, which is, like the name suggests, focuses on getting women and providing adequate catalysts for them through coaching, through mentorship, and also structured career conversations to be able to make that transition effectively. And as an organization, all this is not, I mean, all this is zero if you don't also take bets, right? You actually also have to say, you know what, maybe this person is not fully there, but I'm going to actually also give them an opportunity. And this is same for men and women, by the way. This is to keep meritocracy at the core, but also to actually take a bet on potential, not just on past performance. So I know I gave a bit of a long answer. I could go on, but I hope this kind of focuses on two key areas that we are, uh, working on.
Those are great initiatives. Thank you for taking.
Thank you.
Hi,
Aditya?
Krishna. This is Aditya here.
Yeah. Hi, Aditya.
Krishna, I just wanted to ask this thing. So I was actually going through your profile, and I saw how you were leading the engineering and the fulfillment division, and then you moved towards HR. Okay, and the same way we are also, some of us are planning to move from, some of us are planning to shift our domains in the MBA placement season when it happens. So I just wanted to know how easy or difficult it was for you to shift, and what are the tips which you would like to share with us while taking care of this. while we are shifting these domains?
No, I knew Aditya, this question would come up given my background, but happy to share my experiences. The way I think I'll just share maybe key aspects or learnings that I have acquired, right? One is actually pick up as many cross-functional experiences you can, even through your student life. In India, I think particularly you tend to get closeted. You tend to focus on a particular domain, a particular vertical, and early specialization has its cons. So the first thing I at least picked up was the fact that I could pick up on cross-functional experiences, and even in my tech roles at Flipkart, I spent a lot of time understanding how other functions work in the company. That set me up quite well, I think, for the role that I currently occupy. That's one. Second is the ability to actually, what I would say at the fundamental level, to be able to actually connect with people. And because in any function that you occupy, at the end of the day, your effectiveness as a functionary, be it a leader, be it a individual contributor, even in a technical role, comes to the point of how you connect with people. So uh, for giving equal focus to your EQ skills as much as your IQ is important. Third is actually at some point in time you'll figure out what your passion is. I figured it out possibly like 15 years into my career. That's how late I figured it out. I was playing a technology role for 15 years. I figured out that even in my technology role, what drew me in was actually building teams, connecting with people, figuring out what culture sticks in a team, in an organization. When I realized this, I think once you realize it, just go after it. Be courageous to focus on it. I think these are three things I would say, Aditya, that I personally learned from and set me up as well for this for the role I occupy.
Thanks a lot, sir. I got my answer.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi Krishna, good evening.
Sorry, I can't see you. Maybe the focus is not coming on the person who's speaking.
Hi, can you see me now?
Yeah, perfect. Now I can.
Yeah. So, how important do you think the role of reverse logistics will be in improving the supply chain network efficiency of India? And if you can throw some light on how Flipkart is also contributing towards it.
Sure, sure. It's a great question, actually. Uh, I think here, like the face of online shopping per se, right? It's almost assumed right now. If I were to tell you right now that you had an opportunity to return your product anytime, right? If I would tell you that 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you would laugh at it possibly, right? Like, okay, I can buy a product and I can return it within a month or 15 days or whatever the policy may be. It's become almost assumed right now, which means that reverse logistics is here to stay, right? So I don't need to establish the business case for it. So it's almost very critical now for a company. And in fact, the efficiency of the company in terms of its bottom line, it almost depends therefore on reverse logistics, not so much on forward logistics. Forward logistics, yes, but given that returns is almost a customer USP now, so to speak, and it's become almost now a commodity, it becomes very important to receive and accept that as a company and drive efficiencies in reverse logistics. So over the last few years, we've actually focused a lot on the reverse side of supply chain as well. And big part of that is driving efficiencies in every leg of that reverse logistics. In fact, there are companies globally now, specifically in fashion, that assume that reverse rates will be up to 50%, and there are companies just optimizing just reverse logistics. So that's how important it is. I mean, it's a very, very important part now of e-commerce.
Thank you, Krishna.
Hi, sir.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Divya. I'll go after you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. Thanks for the insightful session. You mentioned about the authenticity and importance of having a transparent communication with your employee, and this is crucial because they need to understand their contribution towards the customer and the whole vision of the company. I read somewhere that even an intern was allowed to pitch his idea to the VP, and that's how the mobile app came into the being. So, sir, can you share your thoughts about how this kind of a culture is incorporated and promoted in the, because elsewhere it is discouraged, like people have inhibitions talking to their to VP level or that seniors. So,
Yeah. No, I think it's a very, very important question, Divya. So it started with some of our founding principles, right? When I think about uh, the Flipkart values per se, and I spoke through that as well in terms of our people centricity, right? The autonomy that you give to every employee, irrespective of level. So, how hierarchical are you as a company, or do you believe in complete, I would say, democratization of knowledge, irrespective of your hierarchy in the company? Obviously, there'll be parts of data that will be confidential, right? Maybe financial data and so forth. But once you democratize the information and then you give autonomy to every employee, and you create role models. You talked about an example where interns were actually presenting, and that's how the mobile app came through. That's a real story. Uh, Create as many of these stories and celebrate these stories. Once you do that as a company, then it starts to become a culture by itself, right? And the other thing I'll tell you is, how do leaders also walk the talk? uh, it's not enough to just talk about all of this and not have enough leaders also role model this. So one of the things that we also encourage a lot of our leaders to do is, how detail oriented are you? How much do you understand the nuts and bolts of the business? Just because you're a VP or an SVP does not matter, right? You should still be able to go into the weeds, work in the trenches along with your people. That also gets you much closer, by the way, to ideas that emerge from bottoms up. Because if you're sitting on a perch, if you're sitting observing employees from a great distance, many of the ideas, there is a potential that they may get ignored. So both have to come through. The leaders have to role model, and the employees have to actually be given autonomy to speak up. These are the aspects that come through and make it work the way it does at Flipkart.
thank you, sir.
Good evening. It was a pleasure to hear your thoughts again. My question is actually somewhat related to what Divya has asked. So, you talked about the entrepreneurial spirit that's in Flipkart, and I think you basically talked about autonomy and encouraging risk taking as well. So, I would assume those would be important components of enabling that. But what does that essentially translate to on the ground? What would you say are necessary rituals or processes that need to be there that allow such a company to have such a entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, so I think the first is the one you spoke about, right? Which is the there are two aspects around entrepreneurialism. One is the fact that, are you audacious enough to chase big ideas, right? And I think the big part of that comes through when you have a culture that encourages a lot of risk taking. Because when you take bets, there is almost inherently, by design, there is a chance of failure as well. um, and so as a company, how do you embrace failure? Okay. So some of the things that we've done is that, obviously, we have hackathons. We make sure that we do rapid prototyping and innovation across the board. uh, we now have Project 1K, which is basically 1,000 ideas that emerge from the company. So employees at any level across any function can submit an idea, and the best ideas win, right? The best ideas actually get translated and get moved to production. The other thing that we do a lot is this aspect about, once you pick an idea and once you actually able to back it, how do you actually scale it as well? And there are cases, by the way, that some of these ideas might fail. So we have actually an award called Chandrayaan 2, which basically celebrates failures. So we have a annual awards function which focuses on honoring ideas that have actually failed. And we ask the people who actually had this ideation to talk about their learnings from this failure and celebrate these learnings. So these are, I could go on, Varun, but these are some of the rituals we've institutionalized within the company to actually encourage risk-taking, failure, and audacity.
Thank you. That gave me some insights.
Yeah, hi sir, Aman this side. Am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah, so sir, I came across the initiative of Flipkart known as.
Sorry, Aman, I lost your voice for a bit. I think
Yeah,
you're audio.
one second, sir, 1 second. Yeah, is it fine now?
Yeah, I can hear you now again.
Yeah, okay. So sir, I came across an Flipkart's initiative called Flip March.
Yeah.
So could you please tell something about that?
Yeah. So it came from the idea of inclusion, which I talked about, Aman. Again, in Flipkart, we have a bit of a queer way of positioning everything, not for the reasons just to be different, but we truly believe in it whenever we think about it. We thought about diversity, by the way, as inclusion first and then diversity. And the reason we did this is you cannot be diverse as a company if you don't have an inclusive environment, first of all, where diverse talent can thrive, right? So inclusivity is a mindset that you need to promote in an organization, and then diversity thrives. And when we talk about diversity, often we must misconstrue it as gender diversity. So when you look at data within a company, do you look at diversity purely from a gender lens, which is easy? And that's, but do you also look at it from, okay, where do you hire from? And I know you guys are from XLRI, but do you hire only from top tier institutions? Do you hire at times for different roles from other institutions? Do you hire only from a certain set of geographies per se, right? Is your talent only from metros? Do you hire from backgrounds which are diverse truly? So that's where Flipmarch came in. I think the fact that one, we can contribute to the ecosystem, the folks who've served our nation, that's from that one aspect. But it's also from an aspect that this talent, by the way, has an experience that unlike everybody else, possibly within Flipkart, they've gone through an environment that will be very different. And how can they bring those experiences to bear in HR, in facilities, in operations? I think that's the view that we had. So through Flipmarch, we are offering this opportunity and we are going after talent from this particular cohort, Aman. And that's the thought process.
Hi, thank you for the session. Since we were already discussing about diversity and inclusion, I just had this question that we discussed policies related to women and what the initiatives that Flipkart is taking to promote that. But diversity these days has a wider spectrum.
Yeah.
That is believed. So what are the initiatives that Flipkart is taking to include the wide spectrum, and what are its plans for the future, and are there any challenges in terms of getting others, the usual common, as we may say, the other parts of the workforce to accept the newer diversity that we are trying to get in the company?
Sakshi, I think any journey of this kind, any transformative journey will have challenges. And I'll be kidding myself if I say that there aren't challenges. There are absolutely challenges. I'll tackle your second part of your question first, which is, I really think that you need to have an inclusive environment first. And before we embarked on an aggressive path on diversity, we focused a lot on building that inclusive mindset. And by the way, we are still on that journey. I spoke about supply chain, and I'll give you an example. We are located across several thousand pin codes in the country, and each of these are served through a hub, a last mile hub that we may have in that location. We have the opportunity to actually tap into, let's say, for an example, women in that location. And when we impact women in that particular location, in that demographic, we have the opportunity to impact a family, right? But when you actually think about, before you get women into the workforce in that particular space, are you even inspecting your infrastructure, whether it actually caters to women? For instance, I think some people spoke about this. Do you even have facilities that cater to women, right? In that particular infrastructure? Do you have a creche, for instance, that can actually cater to working women who are moms? Many of these things were absent when we started on this journey. So before you actually build a diverse workforce, you need to invest a lot in whether you have inclusive mindsets, you have inclusive infra. That's the second part to your question. The first part is absolutely, you're right. It's not about gender alone. So Aman spoke about, I think if I got his name right, sorry, spoke about the fact about Flip March, which is about ex-servicemen. We are focusing a lot on people with disabilities. There are roles that people with disabilities can do today and can thrive and can perform equally well, that we've identified in our supply chain facilities. And now we are on a path where we are actually scaling that offering quite significantly. Our sort of thought process on the future is to be able to run several such facilities in the future. So those are some of the things that we are doing. LGBTQ, again, I don't want to sound, we don't want to do things for tokenism. We want to do things when we can truly impact it on the ground. So we are on this journey, and we'll open it up for other aspects, other elements of diversity as we move along in this journey. But the idea is to get there eventually. I hope I answered the question. Yeah.
Yes, that answers. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Krishna. This is Tushar. My question is around the workplace. So last year, we understand Flipkart was recognized as Great Place to Work certified company. And this itself is a testament that Flipkart's culture of people. So you mentioned about 3 pillars, and I have a question around the pillar of inclusivity. So what were you already mentioned some of the challenges you had. So what were the biggest challenges around bringing the inclusivity amongst the Flipsters in the workplace? And how did the organization overcome it actually?
Yeah. So I'll talk about an aspect I have not talked about earlier, right? If I may. So inclusivity, as I said, as a company, as we grew quite rapidly, right? Mm-hmm. We had a lot of people, and I'm one of them, by the way, that grew along with the company. So there is a tendency, if you don't actually consciously solve for it, to have a cohort of employees that have grown with the company, to actually have a feeling of special privilege. But no company is successful unless you are able to assimilate talent laterally as well. Otherwise, you could easily have a frog in the well syndrome, by the way. People who've been there, done that, thrived in that company. But how do you actually assimilate lateral talent at a leadership level, right? Mm-hmm. We went through our own journey and challenges there as a company. And I'm sharing that quite openly and transparently here, which is, how do you assimilate senior leadership talent? How do you make sure they feel included when they join the ranks of leadership, right? So we invested heavily in an assimilation program. And assimilation is not about, by the way, hard skills. Somebody coming in and joining a supply chain function and saying, I now understand supply chain of Flipkart. But do you understand the cultural fabric of Flipkart? Do you have the networks that will enable you to thrive as an individual? Because as you come in, you don't have the advantage of being around for the last 7-8 years. So we invested a lot in an assimilation program both cultural as well as functional. And then we measured our success based on these new leaders coming on board and how well are they doing. And you can actually measure this, right? You can measure this through their performance in the company, their impact in the company. So that's just one example. I could talk through several examples, but I just wanted to give you a different flavor than just talking about, diversity or gender diversity per se. Inclusion is also about people coming from very different backgrounds.
Mhm. Right. Thank you, Krishna.
Hi, sir. Utkarsh here. May I read a question, please?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, unfortunately, my camera is not working properly, so I couldn't turn it on. Sir, my question is basically, sir, Flipkart actually had a merger. Walmart acquired it a few years ago. I just want to know, sir, from you, how exactly was the process of acquisition, and how exactly were the HR and the organization were able to streamline and smoothly transition it, so that in future it will be really insightful for us to know that come across any such opportunity.
Yeah, Utkarsh, your voice broke up a bit. I hope I got your full question. I don't know whether it was just my internet being flaky, but
yes, I guess I was saying, sir, Flipkart basically.
It continues to be a bit. I can hear you in bits and pieces, Utkarsh.
Is it better now, sir?
No, it's still not.
Is it better, sir?
Yeah,
so
it's
I'll just
better
type
now.
the question.
Utkarsh, maybe you can type the question.
Yes, I'll type the question.
Okay. Maybe we can take another question in the meantime, or
I think Ashika was asking some question.
Yes, Amol.
Yes.
Hello, Krishna. Very good evening. Thank you for joining us today. So the question, first of all, I want to mention that the Flipkart is definitely known for the healthy workspace that it has brought in the IT world as well as the supply chain world. So what I wanted to ask was about the initiatives that have been taken by Flipkart in the past few years. So not all of them have been successful, like let's say fashion indulgence with Myntra or Flipkart Video. Whereas on one side, when Flipkart has rocked the e-commerce market for electronics and things like that, but there are these initiatives, especially Flipkart Video I want to talk about, that was not established as it was expected to maybe. So what are your views on it? I mean, were these a good initiative not accepted properly by the customers, or was Flipkart a bit early or late in the process to introduce these?
it's a fair question. I think, I mean, every product that you launch as a company, I mean, this is not just for Flipkart. There will be products that take time. There are products from a product market fit perspective. They could be ahead of their time. They could be in terms of their strategy. You need to possibly pivot. But I won't comment specifically on products that you talk through, right? Because it'll be a whole another session in terms of why I think videos is the way it is and what's our strategy there and so forth, right? But what I can tell you is that the core philosophy behind any one of the things that you talked about is the fact that we want to be able to rapidly iterate through our learnings, right? When you launch a product, and I'll take an example, I think this is quoted in the public domain as well from a Flipkart standpoint. When we launched Large as a category, this was way back in 2000, possibly, maybe if I get my dates right, around 16 or so, or earlier. And we didn't get the product market fit right. The supply chain was not optimal from a consumer experience standpoint. We yanked the product off the shelf, by the way, and we launched it several years later. So the core principle I would like to share here is that as a company, you have to continue to experiment, launch products. Some of them will succeed, some of them may not, but you have to actually be able to pick up your learnings and not let biases creep in, because there's always this tendency, by the way, of a creator bias, that I started this, I created this, and you get blindsided at times with that. So the courage to pull back, like I said earlier, we celebrate failures. I think that is something which we've learned as a company as well. So I know I don't fully answer your question specifically on those products you talked about, but maybe another day I can share those insights. Yeah, Arshika.
Definitely. Thank you, Krishna.
Good morning, good evening, sir. I am Surya Pathak, and I want to take you from we mostly learn theoretical subjects mostly from a human behavioral subjects where we learn more about emotional quotients and social quotients. So while doing my project, I was learning more about technical and study and how the emotional and social quotient evolved, and it became a mandatory, and how organization adopted it. So while doing my research, I wanted to know how Flipkart utilized this concept in its organization, and is there any test where we can find out that this and this person is really good with his emotional and social quotient?
Sure, Surya. By no means I'm an expert on the subject, but there are various psychometric tools out there that actually measure you. And there's Hogan, for example, which can actually measure this. So I'm again not an expert to comment on it, but there's definitely a lot of tools that you can actually employ to measure somebody. That's the second part to your question. The first one, absolutely right. There's a great recognition at Flipkart that it's not just about, by the way, your mental, so to speak, acumen that will help you succeed in the workplace of the future. So therefore, we've actually evolved a competency framework, what we like to call our FK9, which measures performance from 4 different angles. One is just how your mental acumen is. Two, how are you oriented towards your results? How do you go after what you actually ideate and envision? Three, how do you actually embrace change? Because change is here to stay, by the way, change is permanent, right? And four, most importantly, also, is what is your people skill? And in that people skill, by the way, there are aspects around how do you trust and collaborate with people around you? How do you build an environment of trust? And how do you collaborate with peers? How do you collaborate with your directs? That's a very important aspect, right? And how do you build long lasting teams as a leader around you? So this becomes almost very important, and that speaks to the emotional quotient and the social quotient that you were talking about, Surya. So we measure every employee on these dimensions, and that's how we think about performance holistically at Flipkart.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, good evening. Ekta here. So, also, I want to know, like, how has Flipkart managed the disruptions in the supply chain, which were caused due to the so many uncertainties? And there might have been some challenges in the resource management also. So, how have Flipkart catered to it?
Oh, there's several stories there to share, Ekta, actually. It wasn't easy. I think at the start of the pandemic, there was so much of ambiguity about what was considered essentials, what was not considered essentials. There were obviously a lot of disruption due to the workforce moving around as well. I think one of the things that we did very early on, and I'll just share a couple of stories. One is the piece that we also looked at the ecosystem and partnerships. So, for instance, Uber and, for the instance, Meru Cabs, right? The ride aggregators, they had capacity. Their drivers also were underutilized. So we started to actually partner with them, for instance, and we were able to extend our technology to be able to partner with that side of the capacity and leverage that. The other thing that we did, for instance, was we have distinct supply chains for grocery and for our non-grocery products as well. We were able to actually quickly transform our non-grocery supply chain to be able to cater to grocery as well. So those were some of the things that we did. There were huge share of challenges. I think the big part of, in fact, the second wave and post the second wave, what we've also tried to do is to be able to actually have really path breaking policies. And I talked about this briefly in my talk, which is how do you also have a culture of safety? Because what's paramount right now is your well being. So, how do you actually take away the fear of uh, any anxiety in the mind of an employee? And that mattered a lot in supply chain. Because frankly speaking, many of us are working from our homes in the confines of our homes. But starting March, April of last year, over last 16, 18 months, companies that have operated on the last mile, their employees are out there delivering products. So that's become a very important aspect of this. So I think these are things that we did, Ekta.
Thank you.
Hi, sir.
Okay.
Sir, my question to you is regarding the startup framework which we have in our country. And in last few years, we have seen many startups, some doing great and some struggling to make the mark. But one common thing which I see in most of them is that those were founded by ex-Flipkart employees. So I wanted you to throw some light on this part of the culture. I mean, what culture does Flipkart has so that people are having that mindset to come out and start their own successful startup?
No, it's exactly this point that you raise, Sweta, which is it's the Flipkart culture, right? I mean, end of the day, culture is not confined and you cannot confine it within four walls, right? Once you have a thriving culture and somebody imbibes it, they'll carry it wherever they go. So the same things that I spoke about in terms of the culture of entrepreneurialism, the audacity, the bias for action, the kind of mastery they experience, they take these values, across boundaries, across geographies, wherever they go. And I think that's if they manage to actually create that same environment, because by the way, you could have a playbook, everything that I spoke about, you can have a playbook, right? But do you make it work? Do you make it stick? And in the times of crisis, in those tough times, does the culture really come to your rescue, or does it recede into the background? Those are the true tests of whether your culture is sticking or not. So that's a secret sauce, Sweta, I mean, that you spoke about.
Hello, sir. Really good evening. Niharika here. So first of all, thank you so much for taking out time for all of us. Sir, this question has been boggling my mind since past 2-3 years since the merger of Walmart and Flipkart happened. And sir, what I wanted to know was when a stakeholder as big as Walmart comes into play into Indian markets. I mean, it has been suffering its entry in Indian markets, and it buys its share in Flipkart. So these companies which are having dominant shares, they try to enforce their culture, employee culture, into the other companies sooner or later. But these shifts in culture, they determine the long-term growth of the company. Sir, so being in such leadership positions as you are, how did you manage this tussle that has been going on and get out of it?
Sure, Niharika. In your question, there's an assumption there's a tussle going on, but truly there isn't. But in generic terms, I think specifically when obviously mergers and acquisitions happen, the biggest element that often gets missed out is the cultural assimilation I spoke about. I spoke about it in a different context in leadership assimilation, but the same thing happens, by the way, when two organizations come together as well. So I think the way, at least in the specific aspect of Walmart and Flipkart, I think Walmart's been absolutely an amazing company that has actually invested in us. And the reason I say that is they recognize that Flipkart is truly unique in the way it has tackled the India market, the consumers, and the culture that they've built. They've recognized that, and they have given autonomy, so to speak, even though they are a majority investor in the company, to be able to retain that and actually make that thrive. In fact, give us opportunity to actually nurture that even further. So it's really not been a tussle. It's been a partnership, an amazing partnership, where they've almost operated like an investor versus a company that has a majority stake. That's the way I would put it across, Niharika.
Thank you, sir.
I know we are possibly just about time. Amol, would you should we take the last few questions, or how do you want to? And
So
Stefan
I
is on
think
the
we are
call.
left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we are left with only two questions. One is, I think, from Jagan, and another one is from Utkarsh. He typed his question in the chat box. I think he's waiting eagerly for you to answer.
Okay, great. I'll take that one first, then maybe Utkarsh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jagan, go for it.
Hello, Krishna. I'm Jagan Sukumaran from Chennai. Recently, in this pandemic days, I'm following Flipkart, where Flipkart opened the grocery stores at Chennai and Coimbatore, and it has opened around 9 grocery stores in South India. And they have also had an initiative of safe commerce in pandemic to deal with the health products of oxygen cylinders. And also, I came across an wellness program called Harpal for the Flipsters. So, in this pandemic, what are the takeaways, key takeaways that could be a permanent, implementations in Flipkart?
I think one, first and foremost, that employee wellness has to be paramount for every company, right? And it is not just about physical wellness, as I said through my commentary, right, through the deck. It's wellness in every angle that you can imagine. And taking this thought process forward, I would also probably think about preventive wellness. When I say that, a lot of companies and startups are in this space, by the way, but how do we actually even educate, create awareness on what it takes to be healthy, right? Once something's upon you, you obviously need measures to be put in place, but how do you actually have a lot of prevention as well in your thought process in wellness? I think that's an area that we are thinking about as well, right? So that's one very big takeaway for me, Jagan, through this.
And what about the other initiatives, Krishna, regarding this grocery stores and everything? And I think even the merger and acquisitions were also the key takeaway, right?
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
And even the diversification Flipkart into having a grocery stores as the time needs is also one key takeaway, right, during this pandemic times.
So I think the factor that all consumers are not going to be online to begin with. There's going to be a combination, and therefore, depending on the product category you're going after, you might need a bit of an omni-channel presence as well, which basically means offline as well as online. But that strategy will be nuanced. It won't apply to every vertical, Jagan. It'll have to be based on the consumer strategy.
Clear, Krishna. Thanks for your answer.
One last question from Utkarsh then, if I may, Amol, and then, yeah?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it talks about the merger with Walmart. I think the kind of acquisition that happened in the investment is obviously huge. I can't really spend a few minutes doing justice to it. There are several learnings per se, Utkarsh, in a size of that kind of an investment. I talked about elements of that previously in terms of it's very important to strike a clear operating model when companies come together. I talked about culture. In the same spirit, I'll talk about an operating model as well. There are certain rhythms that each company operates under. When I say rhythm, the ways of working, it's very important to be able to strike the right synergies in that as well. Because there could be quite a bit of friction that emerges in the ways of working, in the rhythm between two companies. So we focused a lot on what are some of the key KPIs, what are some of the operating rhythms, the governance forums, for instance, that we need to institutionalize, where we need to partner, work together. That got spelled out quite early. And when you spell that out quite early, expectations get set as well. And that helped us actually collaborate and work through the merger. So that's how, at least one aspect to it, I can't do justice to all aspects, but that's one angle I just want to talk about.
Okay, great, Krishna. Thank you so much for being so patient and answering so many questions. I'll just hand over to Aditya for delivering a vote of thanks, and you can just close the session.
Thanks, Amol. thank you, Krishna, for joining us today. You covered a lot of topics, right from the culture of Flipkart to Flipster Mafia. I must say that you have convinced us to work with and be a part of the Flipkart family. And I'm sure that each one of us would agree that this session was truly enriching. And on the behalf of XRI Expedium batch of 21-22, I would like to thank you for being with us today. It was a sheer pleasure and a delight to interact with you. Thank you, Krishna.
Thank you so much. I think it was a pleasure as well. Thank you for the insightful questions. Great to interact with each one of you. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Krishna.
And stay safe, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Krishna.